All right, guys, let's continue from the previous tutorial where we created this and kind of had this going on. One thing that I had set in here, we're going to talk about this next time in class. We're going to play with a little, exercises that I had some ray tracing stuff going on. And it was really pretty heavy. So I'm in the default mode. When you first create this stuff, it's going to say Classic 3D. In this case, just make sure that you're in Classic 3D because otherwise you're going to really bog down the system. All right, but next time we'll talk about that. And right now we have the front, mid, and back, and we do have the depth of field and all that good stuff going on here. So what's going to happen is that if we play with some of the stuff like the focal distance and such, we might have to up it a little bit for it to kind of go with the classic 3D mode. So I do have that. I have the aperture. I can open up my aperture to kind of get this to work a little bit more for me. And opening up the aperture, just like on a camera, it will let more, like light in and such, and really going to show you that you can amplify the depth of field when it comes to the front, the mid, and the back based off of these settings, okay? So the focus distance, you remember, was this little guy right here, and we can amplify that with the aperture by opening it up or shutting it, okay? The blur levels, again, is at 100%. That is going to be a give or take for our settings above, okay? See that? And I can animate all these, which is really awesome. So I could really amplify it, which gets a little bit crazy or can get a little bit crazy. But again, for whatever purpose you need it to be, it is there for you to work with. Okay. My iris shape is a fast rectangle. We can drop this down and do, like the triangle, square, pentagon, hexagon, heptagon, octagon, nonagon, and decagon. All right, guys. So I'm just going to stick with the fast rectangle. I'm okay with that. Just, this is learning purposes. But play with those. Kind of see the settings that they give you and whatnot. Right? Iris rotation, iris roundness, iris aspect ratio, all these different things you can play with. They're not going to do a whole bunch of different things for us at the moment for this example. But again, if you did want to play with it, you can kind of, do stuff like that and see what's going to happen here. All right. And again, with this basic setting, the fast rectangle and such, probably not going to get much going on that you're going to really notice in this scene. So let's kind of continue with creating more to the scene. And I'm going to go ahead and take that camera and collapse it. And I have the back, mid, front. Let's add a new layer. So I go to layer down to new, and I'm going to do a solid. Okay. This solid layer can be dark gray, it could be white, it can be anything that you would like it to be. I think I'll stick with the dark gray. Okay. I'm going to hit OK. It's a 2D layer. One, right here in our layers, it's above everything, so it's going to be covering everything up. I need to click and drag it to the bottom. So now it is just a 2D layer. And now the cool thing about this is that I can have 3D with 2D. Since it's at the bottom, it's going to be kind of like a background that is constantly there, okay? But if I wanted to make this 3D, I just have to activate it by clicking this little icon here. And now we have a 3D layer, okay? This is awesome because we can use this as a floor, a wall, a ceiling, or something like that, and really you can reconstruct some pretty cool stuff with these basics. I will drop this thing down, and now that it is a 3D scene, I have the transformations, and I have this position, scale, orientation. So orientation always goes by X being the first one, Y, and Z being the last one, okay? So I'll take the X, I'll type in 90, and that's gonna put it kind of like a floor, okay? Based off of my scene and where everything else is, I'll click on my selection tool to move this down, and I do want to move it to where it's gonna be below that front, okay? And if that front is gonna be my basis for where everything should be, and again, I didn't plan this out, but you can plan out your different scenarios, okay? But I could take the other ones and I'll just select the mid, drag it up, drag it up, drag it up. And you guys are gonna see that when it's interpenetrating the floor, that'll give you indication of when it's kind of on the floor. So I'm just gonna eyeball it. And the back is behind this. This is too tiny for it to reach the back. So what I can do is take this layer, the dark solid, and I'm gonna go ahead and scale it up. So I'll scale it up to, let's say 200. See if that kind of incorporates everything. Let's be a little crazy and go 300 because we're crazy like that. So let me put 300 in there. Yeah, that's looking pretty crazy to me. I don't know about you guys. I'm gonna take this back and I'll just kind of drag it up. And again, I'm eyeballing it because this is just a basic example tutorial to kind of help you guys out to start with these scenes, okay? Looks pretty good to me. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of play with this the way that it is. And the dark solid layer I can now collapse. So I'll just go ahead and, oh, one thing that I want to talk about. Each one of these things, once they become 3D, they have a material. So I have material options here to where I can change the material. I could tell them to cast shadows, have light transmissions, percentage-wise and stuff, accept shadows, that's on by default, accept lights, that's on by default. So the brighter the light, you'll have the hot spots and all that good stuff. We have ambient diffuse, specular intensity, specular shininess. So if we want it to be like chrome, we could really up that to like 100% or something. Let me do something and just kind of see if it's going to do that. I'll put 100 in here. And it might not be too beautiful until we, kind of change it up a bit. But we'll kind of see what that does to see any reflections that we might end up getting. Okay, so I just have that there, and we do have those different things to play with here. I do not need it to cast shadows because it is a floor. So right here it's off. I'm gonna leave that one off. But for other objects, I will probably have to turn that on. Okay, and I could do all of the objects at one time. So to kind of exemplify this, let's do this. I'm gonna go up to the layer. Let's make a new layer. Go down to new, and let's do that again. We're gonna go over to light this time, so I can create lights. I'll click on light, I get this new window, and I have types of lights. So I'll just name this after the type of light. Right now, I have a parallel light. Parallel light is like the sun. It's a really huge light source that just kind of comes in and just takes over everything, covers it like the sun does to our planet and other planets and whatnot. Just a ginormous light source. The spotlight is going to be kind of like the spotlights that you see on stage. All right. We'll be able to have hard shadows, or we can soften them up, or different things like that. Have a focal point on one character and then the other, and so on and so forth. A point light is going to be like a light bulb. It's going to emit light in all directions. Okay. It's going to be a little circle in all 360 directions, going to have light. Ambient is kind of like the ambient lights, and you guys will see these same lights inside of Maya and other 3D programs, to where ambient light really just kind of lights up everything around it. Okay, it's kind of like this falsitude light that's really magical, godlike in its own sense, to where it's going to magically bring the color of everything up. Okay, so this is one light that you would generally have to be careful with, but a lot of the times you can get some pretty good results if you don't overdo it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just create let's do a spotlight to begin with. So I'll come up here to the top, click on this, and just call this spotlight. And it will name my layer based off of this light. Okay, this is the color that it's going to cast. So this is a white light, and you could do anything. You could give it a blue tint if you wanted. So we can do like kind of this kind of cool blue tint. And there's my intensity, cone angle, all this stuff. I could change any of this at any time. All right. I do have a fall off right here, set to smooth. Okay, and the fall off is just like that as a regular light or a flashlight, if you will. If you point a flashlight into the dark, it's going to kind of fade away to where you can't really see anything after a while. And this is going to be the radius and the fall off distance based off of this fall off. Okay. Shadow darkness to 100%, so we could always bring those down if the shadow is too dark. Shadow diffusion, if we need to do anything to diffuse the shadow, if it's too hard or anything like that, we can change that. So I'm going to click OK, and we can play with all those settings later. So my spotlight, the spotlight's going to be kind of like a camera in a sense, so I could actually take it and move it. So I'll take this and kind of move it in X and in Y, kind of drag it down. And you'll see because it has that fall off, the light is dying before it gets to the mid, and you can't even see the back because the light is definitely not bright enough. Okay, so the spotlight is right here in my scene. I'm gonna drop this down, and I'm not worried about the transform, but let me go down to the light options. Okay, there's my intensity. I can actually up that intensity and it just gets brighter and brighter to where it's blown out. So everything is going to get blown out at a certain point. It gets so bright that I lose my color of the light. It's really just kind of reflecting almost like white back at me, and I'm getting a little bit more of a brighter light to, kind of emit onto the ground and make its way that way. But I'm almost, 10 times what it was. So I will put this to 100 again. And I may use that sparingly. It all depends, really. because I can take my different things like cone angle. If I up the cone angle, it's going to have more things that are going to be a part of the light source. The light source will actually get onto more objects around the scene. But if I close this cone angle, I could really say, oh, I only want you to focus on a little part of this. So you guys will see what's happening to my front and my mid. And this could be an effect for you guys to say you can start off at 0 and say, ta-da, I have text. It's pretty glorious text though, right? I mean, I would say. But anyway, I do have this cone feathering where I can make it a hard cone. So if I bring it down like this, you see how it kind of like feathers off here? And it kind of fades out. I can make it a little more hard. So feathering of none is hard. So this is just lopped off right here. It's not soft at all. Let me put it higher. I'll put feathering to like 100. And you'll see that it really kind of fades out a little bit more. Again, the text only goes so far. So let me take this cone angle, bring it in a little bit more. Okay. And at a certain point, at least for these settings, we don't really get much after like 50%. So I'm just going to put it back to 50, put the cone angle up to incorporate my text like that. Okay. And I'll kind of come back here like this. And the fall off and such, I will change. So the fall off distance, let's say I'll do like 2000. Ooh, now I'm getting part of the back in there. See, what is 1000? Let's try it. 1000. Oh, see, lost it. So I'll put 2000. And it's going to be kind of like a pixel base, so it goes back that far. If I did like 3000, it lights that back up even a little bit more. Okay, so that's fine because the blurriness is still kind of making it a little bit dark. And the radius, I could up that as well. Maybe I'll do like half of that. And this is just a number off the top of my head. You could play with these settings and see what you get. Okay, it did kind of brighten that up a little bit and got the back going a little bit as well. Okay, so I'll take 3000 and I'll just put it to 2. Okay, 2000. And not too much of a difference, so this is pretty good. 2000, 1000. And there we go. So we have this depth of field, this distance kind of going on here. And I'll not mess the shadows just yet because I can't even see them. Okay. If I bring my camera upward like this, I'm sorry, my light source, and I bring this focus down a bit, I could try to play with some of my shadows. I can bring the intensity up. Okay. Brighten up this text here. You're seeing that some of the light is spilling off onto the ground a tiny bit. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm digging that. And let's see if it'll get us any results though. So I do need to take my text. So I'll just kind of collapse this layer by hitting this arrow. And I'll shift click these layers because I can do this all at one time, which is great. I'll drop down one of them. I'll go down to my material options. Since they're all selected, if I go down to cast shadows and turn that on, it'll turn them on for all of them. All right. And I could try to see if I move this around a bit. Let me move my camera. So again, to my unified camera tool. Oops. No, that's right. That's correct. Let's kind of try to place this where I can see if the shadows are even being emitted. Let me take this and kind of reposition it. And I'll take my light source and I better double check that. I think cast shadows should be on. Yeah, it's on. So let me try maybe the intensity a little bit more. Ah, yes. You can kind of see the shadows now. Let me kind of go back this way. From this angle, you can see the shadows there. And my light source, I mean, really, the fall off and different things can play a big factor in here. But watch, let me change the color a little bit. I mean, that really didn't do too much, I guess, but let's put 500 in here. And you can see it. So there it is right there. Oh yeah. So now we're getting some shadow, and you can play with those shadows. Okay. Shadow diffuse. If I up it, then we get a soft shadow. Okay. And let me do this. Oh yeah, I am in full actually. So soft shadow, if I come over here. Oh right, remember my depth of field is on, so I'm probably too close, and I might have to change some of my settings to get that to be kind of clear. See that? Funky, right? But you see I have a soft shadow there. I can come back down here and harden it. So I'll put it to 0 and I have a hard shadow, okay? So those are the different things that you guys are able to change. Very simple, very nice. So that kind of takes us through our light part of it. And the light, is really going to be, there's the different types of lights. You can actually keep these in here if you want to play with them. And the intensity you can put to 0 to, kind of deactivate the light. So if I put this one to 0, and let's say that I make a new light, I'll just go up to Layer, New, and I'll do a light, and I will select let's do a point light. Okay, and let's commit to that. I won't change the name, I'm just gonna leave it. But there's my point light. My point light, select my move tool here, or my selection tool. And my point light is gonna emit light in a 360-degree type of angle. And what I could do is play with the same settings, okay? Light options, cast shadows is on, hard shadows, fall off 2000, oops, not 200, 1000, radius 1000, right? Nice. And intensity, just bring it up. There we go. And you guys see the different effect that we get, okay? Select my camera tool, and I'm just gonna kind of back out of there, bring my other text in, right? You guys are seeing that my floor is a little bit specular. It's kind of getting reflective with the way that it's taking that light and letting its emission work, okay? So this is one of the things that I have going on here. Okay, so I'm getting some of the depth of field going on here. I'm getting some lighting going on here, and you're seeing that it's really dying off. The light is, and you can see how it's kind of getting darker as it goes back, nice and smooth. Pretty good based off of these settings here. The shadows, and this one, if it's too hard, again I could put it maybe do 25 here and see what that looks like. And that's not too bad, okay? Because this is not from a spotlight, so this shadow can be a little bit different depending on your type of lighting that you're going for. And you could also have both lights working, so I do have that light going on here. I'll just leave that for there for this example. Let me go turn this other light back on. So I'll put my spotlight on. And what I have it at 200, something like that. 500. I had it at 500. Bam. Okay, so we can mix the lights and stuff, and really take their focal points, change them up, do whatever we need to do. Maybe point at the backlight, point only at the front. Oops. Okay. Averaged out between all of them. I don't know, whatever. But you guys can get those different effects. And again, if I were to change this, it's like a red light. I get that going on here, okay? Now the intensity is pretty hot, so that could be one of the things that's changing the color if I put it to 100. Not much of a difference. I guess between the other two lights, the other one might be trumping this light. But again, it would help to where if I took the other light, take that intensity to 0, now you see that the red is really affecting it. So I could really bring it up in increments. So kind of start dragging. If I was going to get a mixture between the two lights, right? And this one's really taking over really fast. So you'll see that My party light there is getting drowned out by the white light, and that's okay. But in between the two, you could do a little bit of a mixture to kind of bring mood into the scene if you wanted to. In this case, I'm just kind of showing you some of the settings of the lights. I really don't know that I like all this. I mean, I like it because I made it, right? We say that in class, but really, I don't. Yeah, I don't care too much for it. So again, it has to complement your scene. Otherwise, why do it, right? And if you want to rename a layer, don't forget, you hit enter or right click on it, and this would have been a point light. Okay, and we have all the different other lights. So if I did another light real quick, do layer new light, and I do something that's going to be like a sun. I'll do the parallel, and I'll hit OK. The cool thing about the parallel, and I probably should have turned off some of the other settings, but the cool thing about the parallel light is that I can have it anywhere. Okay, and the light options, I'll just turn the fall off to none. And you're seeing that it's lighting everything in my scene. So if I change the intensity up, you're going to see this light start to take over. But you can see the edge of the very back of my scene. You could see it the entire time. I mean, I could see it. It's just getting brighter now. Okay. And this would light anything. So if I had stuff behind way back here where I can't even see right now, it would be visible. Okay. It would be lit up because this is just a massive light source. All right, so I do want you guys to play with the scene, and I'll be sending a homework file out for you guys, but this is the basis for this. I mean, we covered the lights, we covered the camera, we covered the 3D aspects of it. We're going to play with a little more things in class next time. So, start messing with the stuff, get a 3D scene going, and look for the homework from you guys. So I shall talk to you guys soon. Have fun with this. This is great stuff, and it can get kind of intense. So play with it, get used to it, and let me know if you have any questions. All right? Have a good one, guys. Take care.